Wides as the Division Chief of the Occupational Safety and Health Agency here with the state of California. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much. I think Senator Hancock.
Senator Hancock was going to introduce you. That's correct.
Me.
Is she right outside? Let's get Senator Hancock. Hold on. Senator Hancock.
Mr. Pro Tem.
Welcome to you.
Thank you very much. It is my great pleasure, members of the committee, the Rules Committee, to present Ellen Wides for confirmation of the Chief of the Cal OSHA program. She is a resident of District 9 and a person who is absolutely steeped in both the subject matter of Cal OSHA and has had great experience as a practitioner, a person who implements the law and does it well. She has taught environmental law and occupational health law at both UC Berkeley and the University of Texas. She ran the pesticide program in Cal OSHA for 6 years when it was just getting established and getting up and running. What I really want to call attention to, though, is her quite extraordinary service as the executive director of an organization called LeadSafe California. LeadSafe California was formed to actually implement some of the laws about lead paint and lead poisoning in California, an area that we take for granted now. It works fairly smoothly, but at the time it was instituted was full of potential for a great deal of contentiousness and difficulty. Ellen was able to bring together landlords, tenants, realtors, all the players, and get them to work together, public-private stakeholders, and building consensus around issues like this is exactly the kind of skill and commitment I think that Cal OSHA will profit from having. So I'm delighted that she is interested in taking on this big job. I commend the governor again for some of the wonderful choices he's making in this area that you're considering today. I hope that you will favorably consider her nomination. I think she'll do a superb job for the people of California.
Thank you for taking the time, Senator Hancock, to come and introduce the nominee. Means a lot.
Thank you.
Senator, go ahead. We were going to have you do your statement first and introduce other special guests. Please.
Yes,
go ahead.
I would with great pride like to introduce my husband, Rick Warren, and my brother, David Gersh.
Welcome to both of you. Got a chance to meet both of you. Who know me and my journey to this place, to this position. And I thank you today for the opportunity, Chair Steinberg and members of the committee, for this opportunity to answer your questions as you consider my confirmation as Chief of the Division of Occupational Safety and Health. I've been honored to serve the people of California, California's workers and employers in this role since the governor appointed me last April. As Senator Hancock has indicated, I bring to this job many different perspectives about worker protection as a policy advocate, as a regulator, academic, administrator of UC Berkeley's Health and Safety Training and Workers' Comp program, consultant to the federal government on modernizing our child labor laws, and most recently as a philanthropist supporting public policies to improve the lives of working poor and the most vulnerable in California. I take seriously public service and my responsibility to be open, fair, and responsive to all affected stakeholders. Our mission at Cal OSHA is to ensure a safe and healthy workplace for all of Californians' 18 million workers. I believe that workplace safety is good for business and key to rebuilding a robust economy in California. Good safety programs directly help businesses to cut their workers' comp and other costs. Healthier workers are more productive, and effective worker safety programs add value to recruitment and retention of trained workers. I believe our biggest challenge to improving worker protection is creating a safety culture in all workplaces. We can only succeed at Cal OSHA using all of the tools we have available, and those include consultation, enforcement, and standards. As chief, I have focused on increasing the effectiveness and reach of our consultation programs, free, voluntary, and collaborative services, education, and outreach to help employers identify and address health and safety hazards most efficiently in their own workplaces. This is especially vital for small employers who may not have access readily to health and safety information and best practices. Regulation and enforcement are also part of our mandate, especially for the most serious hazards and violations of our worker safety regulations. My goal is to ensure that our field enforcement is fair, consistent, and accountable. Strong, effective enforcement targeted at those employers who violate health and safety laws helps level the playing field for the many responsible employers in California who invest in workplace protection. Equally important, I think, are clear, practical, and protective regulations that are based on good science and technical information. California has been and is a leader in the nation in standard setting, and I intend to continue that. I believe in the importance of stakeholder input and value the voice of labor and employers as we work together to better protect workers and to provide greater clarity and certainty for employers. Our mandates also cover public safety protection in elevators, ski lifts, amusement rides, and we are working closely with those industries to ensure maximum public and worker safety. Government cannot do this job alone. To meet the many challenges of our diverse, dynamic, and multilingual workforce, we are cultivating strong partnerships with labor, industry, academic, and professional organizations. These partnerships enrich our understanding of hazards and best practices, and also help expand our reach and effectiveness. We will look for new opportunities to mobilize employer and labor communities through special initiatives that address such risks such as heat illness and confined space hazards. I believe that knowledge, prevention, and collaboration can save lives and costs. And finally, I take great pride in the work being done well by our Cal OSHA's talented and committed staff, and I look forward to the opportunity to lead them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know I have some questions, but let us begin around the horn here with Senator Alquist.
Thank
go next
you.
to Senator Fuller.
So are you the person responsible for the elevator I got locked into a year and a half ago? All by myself?
I am the state official.
I just thought of that. I really appreciate.
Was it fixed?
It was in L.A. in a hotel, and I was in there for about 30 minutes by myself, and when the L.A. firefighters opened the door, they said, "Senator Alquist." So I tried to behave when I was in the elevator. In your response to Rules Committee, you note that the role of the employer has changed as more businesses are staffed through labor contractors, temp agencies, and professional employment organizations. Do you feel as though Cal OSHA is prepared to address changes in the organizational nature of the employer-employee relationship?
Mm-hmm. I think that we are prepared. It is an increasing fact of life in employment. Current labor code provisions permit us and require us to consider who are all potential responsible employers. And in that vein, we look to who is exercising supervision and control of the workplace, who has opportunity and responsibility to provide protective equipment and clothing and injury and illness prevention programs. I think that the challenge for us in OSHA is more one of apportioning responsibility between the responsible parties and doing that carefully, methodically. I think the worry is more for workers who may not know who is actually responsible for protecting them. It may even be confusing among employers, and we find that in these cases, often a controlling employer and the immediate employer may point the fingers at each other to avoid responsibility. And thus it's our job to investigate fully what are the responsibilities of each to supervise and control workplace safety and apportion that responsibility.
Thank you. Recently, the federal OSHA directed Cal OSHA to be more active in challenging the OSHA Appeals Board in court. A few years ago, numerous OSHA, Cal OSHA employees wrote an open letter complaining about the Appeals Board. How would you characterize the relationship between Cal OSHA and the Appeals Board?
We are cordial, and I have noted a number of decisions where we may disagree with the board. We have a new membership on the board at this time. This committee confirmed the 2 new appointments. I am hopeful that there'll be more agreement in principle, but I think it's important that if we feel the board's decisions are wrong legally and affect great matters of public policy and our ability to protect worker health and safety, then it's our responsibility to challenge those decisions, to take those up on.
That's fair. My last question. In your response to rules, you noted, and we talked about this yesterday, and I was intrigued by this, that over 25% of California's workforce has limited English or do not speak English. However, you indicated that of your total workforce, only 56 employees speak a language other than English. Additionally, you note that you have numerous positions that are vacant and note a serious problem with soon-to-be retired employees. So my question, and I know our pro tem is interested in this issue, and he may wish to pursue it even further in this, but my question is, given your vacancies and succession planning issues you've identified, coupled with the need of Cal OSHA employees to not only have the technical skills, but also to be bilingual, what type of outreach are you doing with educators and people in career tech to recruit new employees? Because I think this is going to be a real problem for you. I know I represent an area including 55% of San Jose, and with all the different languages people speak, it can be a real issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have been delighted with the lifting of the hiring freeze and the ability finally to hire new people to fill our vacancies. One of the challenges is being able, as you say, to find people who are technically competent as well as bilingual, and we have probably not done as much as we can to do that kind of outreach since the hiring freeze was lifted, partly because we are dealing with civil service rules and dealing with the current numbers of applicants already on the list who may not have bilingual skills. I think that we will be working harder in we've tried very hard in this current hiring to find people who really have those dual skills, technical and bilingual. And in the future, we'll certainly make it, we will do the outreach in places like Career Tech, operations and apprenticeship programs, again, where there may be very large numbers of people who will bring us both those skills. Complicated by problems of clearing the SROA lists and so forth, just to deal with the numbers of employees who are unfortunately being laid off. Our hands are not as free to hire as many, to find new people other than that. But I've been working with DPA already on figuring out how we can deal with this very serious problem of being able to communicate with employers and employees in this multilingual workforce.
Thank you.
Thank you. We had a lengthy interview in my office, and I really appreciated the time you were willing to put in. And what I found was that you have a great deal of experience. You were either a chief or director, basically, in the workplace safety and health field since about 1978. I'm sure you also started as 5 years old. And there was an impressive array of varying types of experience within the workplace health and safety. So my question today is really going to go above and beyond the special cases that we've talked about in the past and the future, and examples that you gave me, and also standards to outreach. One of the programs that you have, Voluntary Protection Program, is a very successful proactive worker safety program, and you have employer participants in several different areas: wine, energy, aerospace. And so I'm just interested in how many participants you currently have statewide, and how many applications you have, and how you see that going, and how do you, if you intend to increase it, how you intend to do that.
I think the Voluntary Protection Program and all of our recognition programs are excellent ways we can recognize the accomplishments of exemplary employers who provide best practices that are then applicable and shared with others in the industry. I think we'll be hearing from some members of VPP. I think it's very important to recognize those exemplary employers, just as we also have our programs that deal with employers, our efforts to deal with the employers who do not comply with the law. I think having that as a gold standard is very important. We currently have 82 fixed site VPP members, and VPP is the highest level of recognition, and 20 VPP construction employers, 40 SHARP, which is the next level, and 227 Golden Gate employers. And they also represent a wide array of industries where, again, they are coming up with some of the best practices of health and safety that can be replicated, and leading the way, I think, to show that health and safety measures can be adapted by companies and still keep them profitable and competitive. I think the only limitation in my mind about expanding the program is one of resources, because most of these companies are extensive. The federal OSHA requirements for certification, recertification, which has to happen every 3 years, are extensive. I think it's very important that we keep up in the integrity of the standards of this program, so it does stand for something important. We are subject to a lot of public scrutiny for these programs. The media has had a lot of interest in them. Anytime there is an injury or a fatality at one of these establishments, there are eyebrows raised. So I think it's incumbent on us to work with these companies to keep the number to a level that we can adequately supervise. VPP actually members co-inspect with our own staff. There are teams. It's really a very remarkable opportunity to get the best practices. And so I would hope that as I think with this new hiring, I've been able to increase the VPP staff a bit. We have about 27 people waiting, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to bring on several of them, but again, keep them to a number where we can maintain the integrity and standards that make recognition special.
So how many do you think we still have left waiting to be approved, and can these be processed, or will we have to wait a while?
They'll be brought on probably 2 or 3 this year, and then we will slowly be able to. But each time we take more, for example, the number of recertification exams goes up, and we have to kind of see whether our resources can meet those demands, because Fed OSHA requirements are pretty stringent.
Well, I just appreciate that you're trying to lead by example, and I think that it is very good to have good examples of people who other people can go to and not feel threatened by sharing and trying to figure out how they can follow the path. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Senator Fuller. Senator Dutton, do you have any questions? No? Senator De Leon, any questions?
Ms. White-S, good afternoon. A couple things. Could you please give us an update with regards to the work that's being addressed with regards to injuries of the hotel industry?
The division is currently investigating a number of complaints at hotels throughout the state, so investigations are ongoing. We are reviewing a petition for a standard that was filed by Unite Here with the OSHA Standards Board. So our Research and Standards Unit is now beginning the process of evaluating the hazards, the musculoskeletal hazards to hotel housekeepers. Will be given that it's a petition, it will depend on what the OSHA Standards Board does, but we will very likely convene a stakeholder advisory committee of labor management professional associations. We're working with a number of ergonomists to help give us the expertise we need to properly evaluate the petition. Some of that good work was begun with your bill last session.
Which, by the way, I think Ms. Senator Dutton's one of your favorite bills. I believe it was the bed sheet bill, you know.
The bed sheet.
I think he's a co-author. You're a co-author, aren't you, in my book? No. I misspoke. I apologize. You know.
So I mean, we are trying, the issues, I think, of debilitating hotel injuries to hotel housekeepers is a complicated one. Figuring out the right kinds of measures which are feasible, protective, are ones we're grappling with bringing in as much expertise we can from NIOSH, federal OSHA, from ergonomists, from industry, from labor. So we will probably be convening an advisory committee later in the spring, and then coordinating with the OSHA Standards Board.
Okay, great. Hopefully there'll be between management and labor a
I think a
comprehensive
solution has to come right.
Yes.
I think it's important that we have those perspectives and reach the right kinds of protective measures.
Okay. Could you perhaps share a little of a trend that's happening right now with regards to farm workers, and specifically shifts during the evening hours as opposed during the daytime hours? Because I have no idea what the positive or negative, impacts that may have, other than the fact that it seems to be a new trend. It sounds a little odd, if you will, farm workers working in the middle of the night, but I know that is a new trend happening right now. And again, I don't know what the negatives are, I don't know what the positives are, but I know it's a new trend.
It is a new trend, and I think it's one that our staff is looking at, is going to be getting more information from industry and from labor. I think that the motivation for night work is often to avoid the very serious consequences of heat illness and to prevent workers being exposed during high heat times. So it's a laudable goal. I think the concerns for us are what kind of lighting is provided that affords enough to ensure that workers using sharp hand tools are safe, that they are not falling into ruts, that they can see well enough to perform their work and be safe.
If they have, enough lighting, if you will,
Right.
so the
Yeah.
workers themselves can see
Yeah.
exactly, that they're not in
So
harm's way.
we will be, again, getting the best information on this new trend, because if it in fact saves lives from heat illness, it would be a very, very positive thing. And I think our research and standards people will be working again to explore what are the practices being developed. Where is it used? How is it used? What are any problems people are finding? And working with industry and labor to resolve those kinds of problems. Because if it's effective, it ought to be used more widely.
Okay, and lastly, with regards to the Cal OSHA operations, as the new division chief of Cal OSHA since April of last year, 2011, I know it's headquartered in San Francisco. My concern has been it's been a tad bit, how can I say this diplomatically, geographically centric, if you will, and concentrated in one specific area, I believe to the detriment, if you will, to millions of workers in Southern California. And could you please sort of, now you're going to be at the helm now, or you are at the helm of Cal OSHA. What do you plan to do about this? And share me your views, because I do think it's been quite centric, if you will, geographically, and I don't think that's a clear and fair and equitable reflection, if you will, of the workers we have in the state of California and those who have been most injured.
Well, I have actually, my first visit to any office was in Los Angeles. I have visited 5 or 6 of our offices in the greater LA area. I feel it very, very important to have strong leadership in those offices, given the predominance of our workforce in Southern California, and particularly in the LA area. So one thing I have done is a workload assessment, and we're consolidating some offices and reallocating people to ensure that we have enough people in the offices where there are greatest need, and that will include the Los Angeles area. We've also provided some new leadership among regional and district managers. I think people who will be very, very attentive to the stakeholders in Los Angeles, be able to provide a kind of consistency and accountability of our enforcement efforts, our response to complaints, our investigation of accidents and fatalities. I feel that I felt new leadership was important, particularly there. And so I think we are, in all of my work, trying to increase the responsibility of our managers, again, to ensure that they are really supervising our field staff, and particularly where we have repeated injuries and illnesses, to make sure that there's good, strong enforcement, that there's adequate consultation, outreach.
All right. Okay, thank you, Ms. Whitehead. Thank you.
Senator Dutton had one question, and I have one, and then we'll move to the public testimony.
Okay, just real quick, I forgot, but I wanted to ask you about your funding and where your funding comes from, because it's not general fund. So could you tell the committee where your funding comes from for OSHA?
Sure. About 60% of our funding comes from federal OSHA, and the rest comes from a surcharge on workers' comp employer fees.
Now, is that based on a gross amount or whatever, a percentage of whatever their insurance cost is? Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Is a percentage of that? And then also, too, you said you do outreach programs, and you and I were talking a little bit. I think unfortunately, Cal OSHA happens to be one of those that has a bad reputation, and maybe not even justifiably. Okay, I mean, in some cases, you become like part of the evil empire here. And so I was going to suggest, you said you do outreach, and you also indicate, I think you do like some website type, town halls type of thing. Could you explain that a little bit more to me? Because I think that's part of our problem. I think the businesses don't look at you as necessarily being a friendly person.
Well, I think that our job is to make very, very public and obvious all of the resources we have available. The consultation service, as I mentioned, is the voluntary confidential part of our operations, and it's especially there for small employers who don't have the resources. We did about 3,500 on-site inspections. We partnered in our consultation program with many, many employer groups, with labor groups, with professional associations, with insurance companies, SCIF, and so forth, to reach people in construction, in agriculture, in retail, in manufacturing, and so forth. We are doing everything we can to increase those resources, to make them accessible. And you mentioned the webinars; those are very easy to tune in. We just had a public webinar on our new confined space hazard initiative, which we began after we realized that we had many deaths this year due to confined space hazards in many different industries. So we had a public webinar where people could simply tune in on their computer and have access. We mean to do more of that, and we're doing many, many different kinds of partnerships, for example, with the Associated General Contractors, working on silica in construction. We're working with many agricultural employers on ag safety issues and heat illness prevention. We have many different kinds of partnerships where I think our consultation unit, we're working with the Small Business of California Association to really try to reach, again, different kinds of employers and make readily available practical materials, best practices that they can replicate without having to invest themselves in health and safety staff. I think that's our challenge, to really provide that kind of information proactively and help employers understand what they can and can do to prevent workers' injuries and deaths.
I think you can actually do a lot of, a great service, not only to California, but to the small business community of California, because you can perhaps provide that clarity that they require in order to want to really be able to go out and make the investment without a threat of litigation or being somebody's target. And so the more clarity I think that you can help provide, and certainly I think a state agency that ends up, say, rendering rulings or things along this way, I think that does, if you can help just give more clarity to some of the regs that we pass into some of the laws, because sometimes we aren't exactly clear in necessarily with the written word. But
Right.
I think more clarity that you can help provide our small business community, particularly, might give them the assurances they need that their dollars won't be, thrown down.
No, there's no money. There's no extra money to throw away.
Right.
I quite agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My only question is a broad question about the administration's approach to combating the underground economy and Cal OSHA's role in that approach. Because whether it is a state inspector looking at a workplace safety violation or a field rep from the wage and hour division of our industrial relations agency, oftentimes when there is one violation on one particular aspect of labor law, there's multiple
Many.
violations. And so is your division working with all of the other arms of the labor agency to focus on how to be more proactive in addressing the underground economy, recognizing as well, we sometimes differ with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle here on these issues, but I got to tell you, the underground economy is also about protecting the businesses that play by the rules, because you get a competitive advantage if you're unfair competitive advantage if you're not playing by the rules. So what's Cal OSHA's role in going out on a workplace safety violation, but then suspecting a wage and hour violation and coordinating with the other parts of the labor world?
Well, we agree that is critical to our mission. If we hope to get good employers to continue to invest in workplace safety, we really have to address the underground economy and employers who are skirting laws and subjecting workers to great risks. And I agree, it really robs taxpayers, employers who are playing by the rules, and workers of their lives and wages. We are active participants in the new Labor Enforcement Task Force. That is the new entity that replaced what was known as the EEC in the last administration. I think that there was good intentions in the last program, but I think the implementation was more superficial. I think it did not have the deterrent effect on really egregious violations of tax evasion, lack of workers' compensation, unpaid wages, and serious health and safety problems. So within the Department of Industrial Relations now, we are working very, very actively with the Labor Commissioner, with Contractor State License Board, with EDD, with Bureau of Board of Equalization, and with several of the other agencies, such as the ABC and auto body repair, auto body, whatever that agency is called.
Bureau of Automotive Repair.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Because we do look at auto body shops as a particularly hazardous place. Anyway, I think the answer to your question is that the hallmark, I think, of our efforts is our involvement with these other agencies. We do joint inspections. We do some joint targeting. We are hopeful of getting some data which we have not been able to get historically from EDD, to be able to target more effectively those employers who are not showing employees, who are not paying workers' comp, who perhaps have not registered with the Contractor State License Board or with DLSE. So with better targeting, with better joint enforcement, and a number of our Cal OSHA staff are dedicated, Senator Steinberg, to the underground economy work.
Okay.
And so we are very serious.
You're on it. Yes. Okay. Thank you. No. I wanted to make sure that all arms of the labor agency are all kind of dedicated to the same thing.
Very seriously. We have already been able to issue a number of violations collectively, which I think will have an impact.
Right.
We're also doing a lot of outreach through that effort, too, to make sure, again, that employers are aware.
Let's hear from witnesses in support, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Angie Way on behalf of the California Labor Federation here in support of Ms. Ellen Whites to be the head of Cal OSHA. She has spent, as Senator Fuller has acknowledged, her life, her professional career on health and safety and promoting health and safety workplaces for workers across the state. We are very lucky and grateful that she's taken that experience to return to public safety. She's hardworking, she's honest, she's earnest, and she's incredibly fair. She's a deep listener who hears our concerns and hears the employer's concern, and she's fair about it. We're not going to get everything we're looking for out of Cal OSHA, quite frankly, but we believe we'll get a fair shot when we're before Cal OSHA. We are grateful that she's returned to public service. We can't think of a stronger candidate to be the head of the department. One other thing, if I may, Mr. Pro Tem, on this underground economy question, we're something that we're very interested in. It's not just that this Department of Industrial Relations and labor agencies coordinating inside the box of underground economy among themselves. They're also coordinating across the state in a more targeted, data-driven, empirical, quantitative way of targeting the underground economy. The last administration, quite frankly, hot-shopped it. They drove around and looked for potential violations, and it caused members problems, it caused us problems here in the legislature. This is a much more methodical, data-driven way of attacking the underground economy. We wholeheartedly support that effort and hope it continues and grows. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Senator Steinberg, committee members, Dave Harrison. I'm the Director of Safety for the Operating Engineers, Local 3. I'm here, as you will soon hear, and as more specifically detailed in our letter of support, endorsing the confirmation of Ellen Whites as the Chief of Division of Occupational Safety and Health. And I'd like to say to Senator Dutton that Ellen and the division, they are not the evil empire. They're, in fact, the Jedis of our construction sites. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay, who wants to one-up that one?
Peter.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Peter Weiner from the law firm of Paul Hastings, former Chief Counsel and Chief Deputy Director of the Department of Industrial Relations, and had the honor and luck to hire Ellen into the pesticide program in 1978 when she was really only 4. You have before you today, all of the nominees have extraordinary experience, and none more so than Ellen, at doing what they do and having done it for decades. This is an incredible, exemplary set of nominees. We don't always have that in the state government. Ellen has all the tools in the toolbox. As she said, she understands the value of enforcement, of consultation, of collaboration, of dealing with all stakeholders. And as someone who now represents employers a lot of the time, I can tell you we experience that many-fold over. Moreover, I think that Cal OSHA staff, and this hasn't been mentioned yet, have experienced a real uptick in morale as a result of Ellen's being there. It's very important that she's provided that leadership. And from an employer point of view, the fact that she understands the value of safety culture, that she understands the value and importance of the VPP program and has promoted it from our point of view, I have one client who's in that program, has been a real breath of fresh air. The most important thing about Ellen is that she's centered. She understands who she is, she's been doing it for a long time, and because, I know that's a California word, but because she's centered in what she does, she has the ability to do what's needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiner.
Hi, I'm Gail Bateson. I'm the Executive Director of WorkSafe in Oakland. We're very pleased to be here and to support the confirmation of Ms. Whites. I've known her since the mid-'70s. I just ditto everything that Peter says. This is the most important appointment to our organization and the work that we do, and we totally support her position. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Good afternoon, members. Lori Kammerer, Small Business California. We are very, very proud and pleased to strongly support Ellen Whites. We have worked with her since her appointment on emergency preparedness acts. We have absolute access to her. She has met with us at our every request. She has even spoken to several workers' compensation conferences that we have on behalf of employers. People find her very approachable, very sincere, and we've strongly request her confirmation. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
I'm John Robinson, CEO of the California Attractions and Parks Association. We represent virtually all the state's theme amusement and water parks. We directly employ 125,000 workers, generate $12 billion in annual commerce, and form the economic foundation of communities throughout the state. We support Ms. Whitus as Chief of Cal OSHA. In the last year that we have worked with her, we found her to be very accessible, very open, and effective in answering the needs of our industry. Our relationship with Cal OSHA, particularly DOSH and the Ride Inspection Program, is one of cooperation and collaboration. It is truly a partnership. We share the goal of safety, keeping the most safe environment possible for our workers and patrons.
Thank you. And to the nominee,
and to the nominee, we think that she will bring the right culture to Cal OSHA to further that and further safety.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Howe. I'm the Director of Health, Safety, and Environment for Valero Refining Company here in California. As a representative of the only 2 petroleum refineries in the state that are star sites under VPP, we know the value of safety. We're here to support the leadership that Ms. Whitus can provide at Cal OSHA for the continuation of the VPP program at our refinery and others in the site, and for the safety of every worker here in the state.
Thank you for testifying.
Mr. Chairman and members, Barry Broad on behalf of the Teamsters and Unite Here and the Machinists and UFCW. I'd just like to join the parade of ancients who have worked with Ms. Whitus for like a billion years, and to tell you that she's extremely well qualified. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Barry Bedwell. I'm president of the California Grape and Tree Fruit League. We're an agricultural association with membership all the way from Coachella Valley through the Central Valley up to Lake and Mendocino counties. I think we share a common goal of 100% compliance to ensure the safety of our workers. What's most important for us this last 11 months is getting to know Chief Whitus and understand her attitude of openness, transparency, and the willingness to communicate. She has demonstrated that on more than one occasion, and we're proud to recommend an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. On behalf of the less ancient in the room, I'm Jeremy Smith on behalf of the State Building Trades. Very happy to support Ellen Whitus. She's hardworking, energetic, clearly overqualified, and we're very pleased that she has decided to take on this task, which is very difficult, a very hard organization to lead, but it's in good hands. We're sure of that, so we're happy to support her.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Don Shinsky on behalf of the Western Occupational Environmental Medical Association. Our member physicians work as company medical directors, as treating physicians within workers' comp, as well as public health officers. We've been encouraged from what we've seen so far. Chief Whitus has worked to restore a medical unit, or the functions of a medical unit within Cal OSHA, something that has been dormant for quite some time. We believe it's important to have a home within the division for medical opinion and medical science, and she's making sure that's there. We found her open and solicitous, and we strongly endorse her confirmation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fran Schreiberg, I'm here on behalf of my law firm, Case & McLean, and on behalf of the asbestos victims that we represent in support of Ellen Whitus. I also have known her since we worked together at the age of 5 at Cal OSHA, and she really is just of the highest ethical values and also hardworking, and is really going to bring a lot to this agency, and I just appreciate her taking this job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Stephanie Roberson on behalf of the California Nurses Association, in strong support of Ms. Whitus's confirmation. Ms. Whitus, actually, you make me like regulatory policy now. I was just part of a stakeholders process here in Oakland recently, and I was quite pleased with the vigor of the meeting, with the robustness by which you conduct your stakeholders process. It's open, it's honest. Again, as one of my colleagues said, we felt we got a fair shake in this process, and we look forward to working with you and your extreme expertise that you provide to the state. And she's got excellent staff, so we feel like we're in good hands here. So thank you so much.
Thank
we
you.
support.
Lee Sandal with the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, and we feel California is fortunate to have a person with such leadership ability and experience in the health and safety field. The confirmation of Ms. Whitus is a much-needed step in our efforts to protect working families in California. We strongly urge the Senate Rules Committee to accept her nomination as the Cal OSHA chief.
Thank you.
Douglas Chiappetta, Union of American Physicians and Dentists, would AFSCME. Just 3 quick points. You talked about proactivity, Mr. Chairman, last year in light of the problems we had with staff safety and residents with respect to the Department of Mental Health. Post her nomination, she was very proactive with regard to working with the labor community and forged a great partnership, and we are honored to have somebody who appreciates medicine in the workplace. So thank you. We support her nomination.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Ann Catton from California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. We're in very strong support of Ellen Whitus' confirmation, and in particular, we're extremely grateful and impressed that she has been able to open a Bakersfield district office, because before it was untenable having to have inspectors go all the way from Fresno or the LA area to serve Kern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marianne Massenberg, UAW Local 2865, proud to support Ms. Whitus' appointment. I've known of her fine work since 1978 in the OSHA pesticide unit, where she worked with my husband, who testified out of order earlier today.
Bring him back.
Last but not least, Mr. Chair, members, Eduardo Martinez on behalf of the California State Pipe Trades Council, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the Western States Council of Sheet Metal Workers, the Elevator Constructors Union, and the Coalition of California Utility Employees in support of this great nominee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any witnesses in opposition to the nominee? Well, again, I don't think any of us could say it better than what's been said by the people who have worked with you for many, many years. And this is a very important job. I mean, they're all important. This is very important because you really are dealing with the lives of working people, and also to always be cognizant and sensitive to the businesses and the efforts that they're making in these tough economic times. But this is worker safety. I mean, wage and hour is very important, but that isn't always life and death. This can be life and death. And so your creativity in these difficult times with limited resources and ensuring that you're coordinating with the other arms of the labor agencies to protect workers and the businesses following the rules, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Moved by Senator Alquist. Please call the roll.
Senators Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. DeLeon? Aye. DeLeon, aye. Fuller? Aye. Fuller, aye. Dutton? Aye. Dutton, aye. Steinberg?
Aye.
Steinberg, aye.
That is unanimous, 5-0. It will go to the floor. Thank you, and congratulations to Senator Dutton. You were out of the room when we took the vote on the last two nominees for the PERB board. Why don't we open the roll for Senator Dutton on both nominees, unless you want to separate them? No? Okay.
Senator Dutton? Dutton, aye.
Okay, that's 5-0 for both of those nominees. Those will be reported to the floor as well. All right. We have, last but not least, Ms. Joan A. Markoff, who is up for confirmation as Chief Counsel for the Department of Personnel Administration. Known point of personal privilege. I've known Ms. Markoff for many, many years, and it is a pleasure to have you before our committee today.
Thank you.
Of course. Why don't you wait just a moment while the room clears out. Go ahead.
It's a pleasure to be here. It was an honor to have the opportunity to meet with all of you yesterday and also to meet with your staff members on Friday. I want to take a very small amount of time to tell you Okay, it needs to be closer. To tell you a little bit about my background, which has informed the priorities I have for DPA during my time there. I have been a state employee for 25 years, and for 22 of those years, I was a management side employment counsel with the Department of Toxic Substances Control. And in that capacity, I had the opportunity to review and actually write and revise almost all of their employment and personnel related policies. I developed a lot of different trainings relating to everything from sexual harassment prevention to discrimination prevention to performance management to working with supervisors and training them. I created a workplace violence prevention program that continues to this day and which I believe is one of the best in the state. I worked endlessly with supervisors and with managers, training them how to manage effectively to make their employees happy and productive. And in addition, I learned during that process that the best way to work with people and reach out to them is a collaborative approach, and it is only that way that you can resolve issues at the lowest level and move forward so that you can all work together. And so it's that experience that helped me develop my two main priorities for my time at DPA. And the first is that I am very excited about the opportunity to restore and rebuild the relationship with organized labor that exists between DPA and organized labor. I very strongly believe that working together to reach common ground is a more effective way of getting things done in the state of California. We are partners here in the workplace, and whenever possible, I think if you can call someone first to try to resolve something or work as a group to try to reach a resolution, you have a much better outcome. I'm not naive. I'm a lawyer. I understand that sometimes you do end up in litigation, but I also believe that even when you litigate against people, when you're done, you need to start working together again, and so that there is a way to do litigation that does not result in a war between the parties. My second priority for DPA really does arise out of my work at DTSC, and it is to develop and expand the expertise that already exists in the legal office, but that I would like to broaden using existing resources. And I have started to work on this to create a pilot program that dovetails very nicely into CalHR called House Counsel, in which I have brought together the existing lawyers, people who are expert personnel analysts, an investigator, and trainers to provide a sort of collaborative group who's available to departments to provide advice on very complicated employment problems that occur and begin to develop before you ever get to the discipline process. Because I believe that if you have sort of a nuanced, collaborative approach that really understands the complexity of civil service, then you have a much better likelihood of resolving them at the lowest level and ensuring that people can go forward and work together. Finally, what I wanted to tell you is how excited we are at both DPA and SPB about the creation of CalHR. For those of us who have worked on these issues for a long time, I think we really understand what a historic opportunity you have allowed us to identify obstacles and develop solutions so that we can provide supervisors, managers, and employees the tools that they need so that they can go ahead and provide the excellent services that the citizens of the state of California deserve. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
So you were, formally appointed by the governor to this position, but really appointed in a way by Ron Yank.
That is
and Mr. Yank announced that he is leaving.
That's correct.
How does that change things, DPA, such a strong force?
Well, it was a pleasure to work with Ron Yank. I learned many things from working with Ron Yank, and I believe that the governor will appoint someone, hopefully soon, who has a similar philosophical...
I saw it in an email, actually.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is until the governor makes the appointment, we don't actually know who it is.
That's very good.
So I am looking forward to whoever it is. I am hoping that they share a similar approach and that they will be interested in the priorities that I've set forth. But of course, whoever the director is, along with the governor, gets to set my priorities, and I am a good foot soldier.
Yes, you are. Ms. Markov, one other question on a specific policy issue, and that relates to the state's policy regarding the carryover of annual or vacation leave, where I know that the state policy is for managers to work with their employees who have excessive leave to encourage them strongly to take that leave so that obviously when they leave there isn't a big cash out issue impacting the state. Who sort of enforces that rule when it comes to state managers? And what's DPA doing to ensure that there's consistency across the board when it comes to drawing down those leave balances?
That's a very excellent question. I think that this is a question that's often misunderstood because, of course, when you use the term cap, it sounds like it's a mandatory cap. Instead, it's an advisory cap, as you know. And what happens is that people continue to accrue leave beyond 640. And this, of course, got compacted and worsened by the furloughs because people needed to use their furlough time before they went on vacation or used vacation. So I actually think that the way DPA is currently managing it and the way that other departments are managing it is the model way to do it. What happens is once a year I get a list of the vacation time or annual leave of all my employees. I then have a form that I send out to them that requires them to set forth, and they have to project how they're going to use their time in the coming year to reduce those balances. And then what I do is I work with the assistant chief counsels to make sure they're managing that. Halfway through the year, we check to make sure that they are in fact using the leave that they are supposed to use. And then at the end of the year, we check too. And if you're managing appropriately, you don't just distribute it and forget about it. You work to make sure that it's being done. Now, what DPA is doing about this is we are currently, it's my understanding, working on a policy or a PML that will move this out to the departments so that it becomes a sort of standardized practice so that people understand that there is a way to manage this, that it's a very important priority for this administration to bring these down. The reality is that a lot of these balances are really high for managers too, and it's very hard to have managers out of the office, and particularly at facilities where you have people who have to work around the clock. It's been very hard to manage, but I think if we make it a priority and we teach people how to manage it and that you really have to be monitoring it, it's not just something you can hand out and leave alone, that we will be able to bring these leave balances down.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those situations, and I don't know how frequent it is, especially among the management, but it's one of those things that when revealed, if abused, when revealed, or if ignored, can be embarrassing to the state. And so it's just something I wanted to ask about and make sure that we're paying
very aware of it and we're paying attention
to it. Proper attention. Yeah. Very good. I noticed, I didn't give you the opportunity to introduce any family members who might be here, special guests, if you wanted
thank you. I took my children out of college. So I have my children here and my sister at the back of the room. And
where?
Oh, they're in the front of the room.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to all of you. Okay. I'm going to ask Senator De Leon to ask the next question, and I got to step out for just a second. You're fine. Senator Dutton, you have the gavel.
Hi there.
Hi.
You're just way too happy and perky and everything. Chief Counsel, I really enjoyed our meeting yesterday, and I really think you're going to do an excellent job.
Thank you. So did I.
What I really want to do, too, though, is rather than kind of rehash some of the things we talked about, because there are some changes going about, I want to make sure that I can help you as much as possible, and I think most members of the legislature feel kind of the same way. I think we're all committed to trying to reorganize things so that we become more efficient and therefore provide a higher level of service and eliminate some of the challenges. And so I just, you were kind enough to commit that you were going to stay in touch. You let us know how things were working, how things were going, because I do want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I think you'll find that most of the legislature, particularly senators, feel that way too. They're here for the long haul. So I'm going to be pleased to support your nomination. I don't have any other questions. You were very thorough yesterday, and I think you're an excellent choice. So with that, I'll go to Senator Fuller.
Thank you. Well, your resume is definitely complete, especially with the last two lines that say that you have won the State of California Superior Accomplishment Silver Award and then also the State of California's Superior Accomplishment Gold Award. So with that, I just have a curiosity question, and I did enjoy our interview. You're a very articulate person who I think does look for a position of common ground to start. And but there's a little toughness there, too, so hope we don't ever have to see each other in court. Meanwhile, now that things are sort of changing around in your department, there are 4 MOUs that will be coming up. Are they going to be under the Governmental Operations Agency, or do we know who's going to handle those? Is it going to be your in-house counsel, or is it you, or do you know? I mean, are we separating functions, or are we just collapsing departments? Exactly what are we doing?
Well, I believe even if we are, and the plan is for us to be under that organization, that we will still be handling collective bargaining for the state of California at CalHR. We have labor representative officers who appear at and sit at the table to do the bargaining. The legal office does not sit at the table. We provide legal support as needed, and unless there's a different direction, I expect that will continue. It's been very effective in the past, and I expect that will continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's going very well.
Thank you.
And I really enjoyed our discussion yesterday. I think most of the questions I had have been covered except one, and that is on, and I mentioned this to you yesterday, when both Director Yank and Deputy Director Schwartz came before Rules Committee, I asked both of them how the department was going to simplify the hiring process through HR Mod. And even though its budget has been eliminated, and yesterday you and I talked about how sometimes it is very, very difficult for people who would be interested in a state job to even find anything online. And so could you explain what role you will have with HR Mod and how you will help simplify the process for the people of the state of California?
Yes. Technically, as you know, when CalHR was created, HR Mod was dissolved, but the program goals of HR Mod were not, and neither were many of the people who are very committed to that work who are still at DPA. And we have a big commitment at DPA to continue with workforce planning, as well as we're very focused on both, although we are not the SBB, and SBB will continue, we will be involved in the hiring part of it, and so we have a lot of ideas that we would like to put forward to try to see what we can do to improve that hiring process. One of the ideas that HR Mod was working on was the Bureau of Labor Statistics has a large category of classifications that almost everybody in the nation uses that are are very easy to search. And what we were in the process of doing and what we hope to continue doing is to link those to the SBB website, so that if you know what the classification is or the term that you're searching for, when you put it in, it will get the appropriate jobs for that classification. And I having struggled with the site, think that will help solve the problem, and it will be very helpful. Thank you.
Very good. Witnesses in support of the nomination.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you all. My name is David Miller. I'm with the California Association of Professional Scientists. We represent all the scientists throughout state service, bargaining unit 10. And I have also been a long-time employee at the Department of Toxic Substances Control. So I've had the pleasure of working there with Joan for many years prior to her appointment over at DPA. And you know, I could go through my whole long list of superlatives, but what it really comes down to is Joan understands government, she understands management, supervision, she understands what public employees go through, she understands what our stakeholders and our public are looking for, and she's always focused on trying to solve problems, trying to find the real solutions that are meaningful, that are legally defensible, that are practical, but ultimately that are the right solution, and working in partnership, collaboration with others, not just finding what's the legal expedient for the moment. So if we're trying to move toward partnership to have a more effective, efficient state government, Joan's the person we want to see in that job. Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Lowry, and I'm speaking here as the former director of the Department of Toxic Substances Control. I had that position from 1999 to 2004. I had the distinct pleasure and advantage of having Joan as our lawyer involved in all matters related to employee relations. She gave all her efforts. She did terrific work, great advice. She gave bad news with a good sense of humor. And the statements you've heard about trying to reach solutions, I could not amplify more. She's a terrific choice, and the state will do very well with her in that position.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Pat Whalen, Ellison Wilson Advocacy. Here on behalf of CASE, we represent the attorneys, judges, and other legal professionals that work for the state. We regularly go toe-to-toe with the attorneys that work under Ms. Markoff, and I've had the opportunity to sit across the table from her and discuss a number of issues, and I can say she is no pushover. Quite the contrary. She is an intelligent and formidable adversary, but I think she's also fair, honest, and respectful. And I think in this era when the state is having to deliver more and more bad news to employees, she has the qualities that will enable her to do that in a way that will indeed restore the relationship between employer and employee, and we heartily recommend confirmation.
Nicely said as well. Thank you very much. Are there any witnesses in opposition? Maddie, Hannah, you want to? Just kidding. No witnesses in opposition. It's a pleasure. You know somebody personally through the years, and then you get to hear what their professional associates say about them in a public setting, and it's very nice to hear.
Thank you.
All of that, and your presentation was very good as well. Very happy to support the nomination. Senator Dutton will move, and we'll call the roll.
Senators Alquist?
Aye.
Alquist, aye. DeLeon? Fuller? Aye. Fuller, aye. Dutton? Aye. Dutton, aye. Steinberg?
Aye.
Steinberg, aye.
Welcome, Ron Yank, as well, and congratulations on we're not sure we're going to let you go, but it's all right. Congratulations. Joan, congratulations. Very good. We have just a little bit more business. On file item 1, there's one slight change to the reference of bills. Does that have to be stated on the...
It's AB 1073. We would strike the referral to Natural Resources Committee and simply refer it to Energy Utilities Communication.
Very good. Okay, so with that change, we have any items that any of the members want to take up separately? You all right there? So that's file items. I'll take a motion from Senator Dutton on file items 1 and 3 through 9. All right, without objection, we'll substitute the unanimous roll call on those items. I understand. Okay, let's call the roll on the items then. That's fine. Go.
Senators Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. DeLeon? Fuller? Aye. Fuller, aye. Dutton? Dutton, aye. Steinberg?
Aye.
Steinberg, aye.
All right, that passes 4-0. That ends the regular session. We do have an executive session. And again, the